I'm calling it right now. A24's new horror movie Talk to Me is the scariest movie of 2023. Let's talk about it. Talk to Me is an Australian horror from brothers Danny and Michael Filippo in their directorial debut. And what a debut it is. This movie centers on a group of teens who discover how to conjure spirits by using an embalmed hand. The fun party trick turns deadly when one of them takes things too far and unleashes supernatural forces. This movie has been receiving a lot of hype and buzz within the horror community since it premiered at the 2023 Sundance Film Festival. The movie has been called one of the scariest movies ever, and there was a bidding war to pick it up, which ultimately went to A24. And there is good reason that there is buzz surrounding this film. It's terrifying. What I love most about this movie is that it feels very fresh and new. It's taking on a familiar trope that we all know and love in the horror genre of teens conjuring up spirits. But instead of using a Ouija board, these kids are using an embalmed hand, which is so unique and creative. When they conjure these spirits, it's almost like they're doing drugs and getting a high off of it. And like any drug, if you do too much, it might become harmful. The opening scene of this movie is so bleak and dark, and I think it really perfectly sets the tone for the rest of the movie and lets you know what you're in for. And let me tell you, this movie is super bleak, it's disturbing, and once the horror element kicks into play in this movie, it does not stop. It's like it grabs you by the throat and holds it there for the rest of the movie. The dread in this movie is absolutely suffocating. And there's a certain point in the movie where this story takes a seriously dark turn, and when it happens, it's so shocking, so brutal, so violent. It feels too real. And what I like about the movie is that it doesn't hold back with the violence. It almost stays and lingers with it, so you really feel it, and you really feel like you're in the room with these teenagers. A lot of the stuff that plays out in this movie is very mean, very shocking, very sad, and just super depressing. I think the film perfectly weaves in the horror with themes of grief, loss, depression, trauma, and anxiety, and how far some teens will go to feel that connection with one another and to be connected and a part of something, even if it takes them to dark and disturbing places. These teens in this movie feel like real teens, and I like how the whole concept of them conjuring up the dead is spread through their social media, where one kid did it at this person's house and then word kind of spread and they recorded it on their phone, and it's just kind of everybody is in disbelief. They don't really believe it's real. So there's that excitement factor where they want to prove that it is real. Our main group that we follow ends up going to this party. Our lead protagonist has just lost her mom, so she's dealing with a lot of grief there, unresolved grief. And she decides to try it out, and she gets a little too excited with it, and it just explodes from there. From that point forward, you know you're in trouble. Love that the story explores how vulnerable teenagers could be. The whole idea of peer pressure and how kids are so susceptible and likely to put themselves into a dangerous situation because they're young and dumb. And I like that this shows how easily dark forces can take over if you just let them in. Sophie Wilde is our lead protagonist here, and she's absolutely riveting to watch. I think she balances that vulnerable, strong personality so well, and it's absolutely terrifying watching her transformation over the movie. There are many trippy moments in this where you don't know if certain things that are happening are real or if our character is kind of spiraling mentally, and I love that. I love that you can't trust anybody, and there's kind of an unreliable narrator vibe to it. Another standout character to me is Riley. I think that he is set up to be such a sweet, innocent little kid who just wants to fit in with the older kids and feel cool, and he ends up getting himself into a really dangerous situation, and watching what happens to him and the rest of the friends over the course of the film is just absolutely devastating to watch and haunting. And I think haunting is the perfect way to describe this film. It feels like you are going through every emotion with these characters, and there's just this sense of uncertainty. I didn't know what was going to happen from one moment to the next, and when they actually play this game, it's absolutely terrifying. And I don't think that I would play this game, but you can understand why a bunch of dumb teenagers would play this game. The special effects in this movie are so good because it's very brutal. It's very raw and violent and shocking, and the special effects do not hold back. Like, there's lots of bloody, gory moments. I was especially impressed by the special effects of the spirits that we're encountering throughout this film, and they're just really well done and really creepy. The whole movie is unnerving and unsettling, and I reacted with my entire body while watching this movie, and I haven't felt that way in a very long time. By the end of the movie, I was so far down in my chair, I wanted to just collapse because it's so intense and it does not let up, and I feel like it gave me similar vibes of Hereditary, that heaviness feeling. I love the horror in this movie. I think they did it so well. It scared me, the feelings it made me feel, and I think where the story takes us, where it ends, it wraps up perfectly, but it is bleak as hell. It's not a cookie cutter ending. It's very bold, and that's what I love about it. It feels like you've been punched in the gut by the end of the movie, and you're just like, oh. Someone commented that this movie will make you afraid of dying. And I think that is the perfect way to describe this movie, because some of the imagery in this movie got so deep under my skin and made me scared. It highlights what people will experience in the afterlife, and it's not pretty. And it's literally my worst fear. So everything in this movie came together so well, and it did a great job scaring me. I'm so excited. I'm on a high from seeing it, and I can't wait till you all can see it. It hits theaters July 28th, and I highly recommend you go to the theater to see it, because I think this is one of those movies that will benefit from seeing it in a theater surrounded by people, just feeding off of each other's energy. Overall, love this one. I think it's gonna be one of the best horror movies of 2023. It's definitely gonna be at the top of my list. And I'm just glad to finally get something in 2023 that really just rocked my world, essentially. It's really terrified me, and I'm unwell still. And I saw it a few days ago. So I hope that you give this one a chance, and believe me when I tell you, it lives up to the hype. So there you have it. Talk to Me is one of my new favorite horror movies, and it's gonna become one of your favorite horror movies. Let me know if you're excited about this one and if you plan on seeing it in theaters when it hits theaters July 28th. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will catch you next time. Bye.